Hey guys, it's Alex from 7th Hour Films, back again with Arrow, which is a weird thing to say, but the reason I say that is this is part 3 and the final part of my Arrow Season 6 review. This will be covering the season finale episode 23 of Season 6, Life Sentence. If you're new here and you just found this randomly because you were looking up reviews on Arrow, you don't necessarily have to watch my other two videos to understand basically what I'm talking about here, but pretty much what I did was the first two parts, which I guess the first video can be found up here in the iCards. Oh, excuse me. The first video was talking about the first half of this season with Caden James. The second video I did was solely on Ricardo Diaz and why I don't think he's a good villain. And this video is just going to be specific to this episode. So if you want to see my thoughts on the rest of this season, you can go watch those, but honestly, I guess you don't need to. Basically, just to recap, I liked Caden James, the team breaking apart sucked, and I don't like Ricardo Diaz. That's basically the gist of it. So, yeah, we are going to go point by point on stuff here in this episode of Arrow. Yeah, let's get to it. So, the first thing I want to talk about is this opening fight scene, because it was pretty fun. So, we get a police officer at the SCPD, and he's walking around, and he just bumps into the Green Arrow. Oliver's just there, and he's like, "You gotta be some sort of stupid to come here alone." He probably didn't have an accent, but he was he was just a very stereotypical corrupt cop. I don't know why in my head that translates to a New York accent, but anyway. And Oliver's like, "I didn't come here alone." And boom, everyone comes in, the entire team, the FBI is here, because at the end of the last episode, Oliver asked for Agent Watson's help against Diaz, which I didn't realize. I will say, last episode when he went to Watson, I was like, what can Watson really do that would help? But I understand now. Like, basically, in this first opening fight scene, I understood the point of bringing in the FBI is to have an army. Because Diaz does have an army with all the members of the SCPD and all the members of the Quadrant. So, okay, bring in the FBI to have an army. I argue that Argus pretty much also had an army of highly trained agents that would probably be even better than the FBI, but whatever, that's not important. So we get this huge fight scene in the SCPD, and it is a lot of fun. This episode was directed by James Bamford. He does a lot of, I don't know if he does the choreography per se, but basically you can kind of tell when an episode is directed by this guy, because the fight scenes are amazing. They are incredibly well choreographed, fast-paced, they're fun, and I think it was Blindwave who pointed out, I think Eric from Blindwave pointed out, is that a good fight scene choreographer choreographs the camera, too. Because you can't just have a camera just kind of going around. That's not good. The camera has to follow the action precisely. So, and Bamford knows how to do that, so that's already a plus on this episode. I guess I should say, if you did watch my my second video on this, even I guess I got a little ranty in my first video too, but if you watch my other videos, I ranted about this season, and I'm going to try to keep that to a minimum in this video. I feel like I don't feel like there's much else to really rant about, but yeah, I don't know, we'll see. I'm going to try to keep the ranting to a minimum, so we just have a nice, fun review. So yeah, great opening fight scene. I love that. I kind of also like that they just don't, they don't care who's in the SCPD. They attack everyone, basically, because Diaz has a tech guy, because all villains have to have tech guys. Even Damien Dark had tech guys. So he has a tech guy, and in the last episode, he basically says, like, you need to get this done. Your grandma's life depends on it, or something. And so it's just this kid, probably in his early 20s, I would say. Probably a fresh-faced college kid, and he's being threatened. He's being threatened to do all this work, so he doesn't really want to work for Diaz. And there's a part in this opening fight scene where Oliver is beating the crap out of this dude, and it's like, I kind of feel bad. He's getting beaten up by the Green Arrow, and he's just sitting there with his with his grandmother's life on the line, and Oliver's beating the crap out of him. So, I don't know, that is like, it was kind of funny, honestly, so, I don't know. Hang on. The hair's a little screwy. It's humid today, so hair's gonna curl up. Guess there's nothing I can do about that. So, Diaz is nowhere in this opening fight scene, and neither is Anatoly, because Anatoly got word and got out of there, and Diaz catches up with Anatoly, and basically says, like, well, this is not going to be a problem anymore. I got some new friends. And Diaz's like, new friends? What new friends? I don't know if I do convincing impressions. I think my Diaz is horrible, but I don't know. What do you guys think of my Russian accent? I don't know. Anyway, so Diaz says, yeah, I hired the longbow hunters. And Anatoly's just like, longbow hunters? I thought they were myth. So, evidently we have longbow hunters, except for the fact that they don't show up. They don't show up. And they reference it later, like Anatoly tells Oliver that Diaz hired the longbow hunters. And everyone's like, who are they? And Oliver's like, they are 3 assassins they are 3 archers that even the League of Assassins fears. It's like, oh shit. That's serious. I question why they care about helping Diaz, but it's whatever. That's just a minor nitpick, a plot hole, basically. So yeah, we have 3 villains that even the League of Assassins fears. So that's crazy. They don't show up, though. They're not in this episode whatsoever. They never come and help Diaz. So basically, I think the basic part of that is that they tease the longbow hunters because they're going to be the season 7 villains. I can already tell. I saw that coming a mile away. They're going to be the season 7 villains. It's like in season 2 when they have the League of Assassins, so that kind of teases Ra's al Ghul. In season 3, Ra's al Ghul is like, yes, and I had an old adversary, Damien Dark, and stuff. And they go and they try to attack Damien Dark, but he's not there. It's like, okay, well, he's going to be the villain next season. And then in season 5, they go and they find Caden James, and they're like, you just helped an escaped criminal. Felicity. They say, Felicity, you helped a criminal escape and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, he's going to be the villain next season, which he was. He was the villain for the first half of this season. So, yeah. I'm almost positive that the Longbow Hunters are going to be our villains next season. Kind of. And we'll get to this a bit later. But, anyway, next up we have the laser scene. This is where Agent Watson, a couple of the other FBI agents, and Renee all get caught by these laser tripwires, basically, that will set off a bomb. And it's a pretty emotional scene because they're not sure if they're going to make it out of there. And Renee even calls his daughter and tells her that he's proud of her and that he loves her. And it's actually pretty touching. The next thing is Quentin and Laurel. So at the end of, not the last episode, but the episode before, Diaz kidnapped Laurel, basically, and which was stupid, but because because Diaz should not be a threat to Laurel. All Laurel has to do is just scream at him and he goes down. But he was prepared. He had like a sonic dampener, so whatever. Anyway, so in this episode, Quentin is actually concerned about Laurel, even though it is Black Siren and not really his daughter. And basically, Diaz wants Lance, because Lance is still the mayor, he wants Lance to order the FBI out of Star City, which I'm not sure a mayor would have that jurisdiction. I mean, I guess, but you would think that the FBI, because they're federal, would take precedence over this. I don't know, but whatever. So yeah. And Diaz basically says, like, you'll do this or Laurel dies, basically. And just before... so basically Quentin agrees to do this, but he has to see Laurel first. And before Lance goes, he tells Oliver, basically, like, they have a nice moment where, like, everything's changed since the Fire Nation attacked. No, I'm kidding. Like, a lot has changed since Lance first arrested him. And there's something like, Lance asked, how did he pass that lie detector test from, like, season 1, I guess. And Oliver was like, well, it's all about, keeping your heartbeat correct and stuff. And Lance is like, well, I guess I can do that too. I got a pacemaker. And I was like, really? You have a pacemaker? You never told us that. I was like, yeah, I was after the Mirakuru soldiers. Yeah. Old heart couldn't take that. I don't even know if this heart can take Laurel dying. So, yeah. Which it would if... Well, that's not the point. The point is, he told Oliver that he has a pacemaker. The reason he told him this is because when he goes and meets with Diaz alone, he says, the FBI is tracking me. The FBI can hear us. So, please take me to Laurel. Kind of. I don't remember the exact word, but that's basically the gist of it. So they take Lance, and basically they all figure out that Diaz would have searched for the tracker, so that wouldn't have worked. But Felicity can actually track a pacemaker, so they use that to track Quentin and find Diaz, which is pretty cool. But Quentin is thrown in the same cell as Laurel, and Diaz says, alright, now you're gonna order the FBI out, or I shoot your little girl. And just before he pulls the trigger, Lance jumps in the way, and Lance gets shot, which will come up later. But in the meantime, the FBI and Team Arrow make it to Diaz's place and get the drop on him, and we get another action scene. And it's pretty great. Oliver goes after Diaz, who's trying to escape, and Dinah goes and helps Laurel, and which is good because they mention that she has set aside her vendetta against Laurel for killing Vince, Vigilante, so that they can destroy Diaz, basically, which is good. And I will give them that. Dinah did improve when she set aside her vendetta. And I guess something I should have mentioned is that Oliver is kind of going on this apology tour. I kind of made the joke, this episode should have been called I'm Sorry, with how many apologies there are. But yeah, so everyone is everyone's cool now. Well, except Watson, because she still wants to arrest Oliver, but we'll get to that later. So yeah, so Dinah helps Laurel and gets the sonic dampener off her neck so they can both do their screams, which is pretty cool. It's cool to see them both do it, like, together, so yeah. And then we get our big fight, the Green Arrow versus Ricardo Diaz. It's okay. It's not bad. I will say it's not particularly great. I guess it's good. I guess it's good. I'll give you it's good. It's very close. There's not a lot of like people have pointed out. Diaz is a very close kind of guy. He keeps everything like he's not flashy basically, and that's kind of disappointing. Is like yes, that is a type of fighting. That is a fighting style, and I guess it would make sense for him, but this is our big final fight between our hero and our villain. It's not that flashy, honestly. The way I would kind of compare it is that it's kind of like the final fight between Neo and Smith in The Matrix 3. It's very well choreographed, it's very nice looking, and it's very nice looking, and it's in the rain. But it's not that huge or great. So yeah, but Oliver does pardon my French, beat his ass, so that's nice. So yeah, even so, Oliver has all his gear, right? Diaz still pulls his stupid little knife, and he's like, all right, here we go, and it's like, come on, stop with your stupid friggin' knife. Get a machete or something. But I think he does actually like cut the string on Oliver's bow, so his bow is taken out of commission in this fight, which is weird. But his arrows aren't, because at a point Diaz is like on the ground and Oliver just gets an arrow and stabs him through the chest, which is nice. And then Diaz staggers back up and he says, "If you want this to end, you gotta kill me." And Laurel shows up and is like, "He's right. This has to end, Oliver." That's my impression of her scream, the siren scream. And he gets pushed off the building and falls, I want to say a good 4 or 5 stories into water. Oh, dang it. Because this is shot at night, I didn't realize that was water until the splash. So I thought he was just gonna splat onto concrete, but it was water, and he survived. Ricardo Diaz survived the season. Not only that, Ricardo Diaz escaped. This is the first Arrowverse villain to escape at the end of their season. Thawne, dead. Zoom, Time Wraith. Savitar, dead. Non, I think, was dead. Rhea, dead. Vandal Savage, dead. Thawne, again, dead. Malice, dead. Merlin, he was dead, but he was at least dead in the season finale, and then he came back later. He came back to life later. Slade, imprisoned. Ra's al Ghul, dead. Damien Dark, dead. Prometheus, dead. Ricardo Diaz, he was the one that got away. And from all indications, he's coming back next season. Because, fuck, man, what the hell? Why him? Come on, just end it. If this was the end of him, I wouldn't give it a second thought. I would have just been like, well, there goes that villain. Whatever, he wasn't great. So, yeah, so Laurel ends it. So, yeah, Laurel ended it, but she didn't. If anything, she made it worse. If Laurel hadn't gone up there, Oliver would have probably been able to at least arrest him, get the FBI up there to arrest his ass. So, but the good news is, Felicity did something to a device on Oliver's arm to basically make it a portable digital sniffer, as they call it, because Diaz always carries a list of all the names of the people on his payroll. So, because Oliver was in close vicinity to Diaz, he got all the names. They basically cloned all the files onto his ARM device. And so now Diaz no longer has a payroll, and Diaz no longer controls Star City. So, in that sense, they did win the day because they got the city back. But he's also escaped, and I guess he's coming back next season. My only hope is that he gets killed by the Longbow Hunters or something. I don't know. I hope he doesn't last way too long. But, yeah. Of all the villains, we had to keep this guy. Whatever. Next up on the list is... So, Quentin got shot, as I told you. And they take him to a hospital. There's a nice scene with Oliver and Quentin. And Oliver's like, "You're a good dad." And he's like, "You are too." And he's like, "Thanks, I had a good example." Yeah, you had your father. It's like, "But I also had you as an example of fatherhood." And it's this really touching scene. Oh. It is a very touching scene. And then, we cut out to the hospital hallways, and Sarah's back. Hey, Sarah's back. Took a break from hunting demons, I guess, with the legends because Black Siren actually called her, which is pretty cool. I don't know how Black Siren called her, but whatever. That's a tiny detail we don't really need. Yeah, so Sarah shows up, and then we get the news that while Quentin was in surgery, he seized, and the surgeons did everything to revive him, but his brain was without oxygen for 7 minutes, and he died. And thus, Quentin Lance is no more. And credit where credit is due for this episode. This was a good death, and it was a proper death. I wish at least Sarah was there with him at the end. That seems to be a thing with the Lances, is that no one is there when a Lance dies, because Sarah was killed and then Laurel just found her body. Laurel died and then Quentin got to the hospital, and now Quentin died off screen basically before he even got to talk to Sarah. So, yeah. So Quentin's dead, and it's really sad, but what are you gonna do? And the last thing is that Agent Watson shows up again. Well, technically she shows up before they get the news about Quentin, and they cuff Oliver Queen, and basically we learn about Oliver's deal. Is that basically, in order to get the FBI's help to stop Diaz, and this continues on even after this episode, Watson said the FBI will remain in Star City until Diaz is captured, which I guess that's at least good. So maybe new main character. Alright. Watson isn't that terrible, I guess. She got a little better this episode, but basically the exchange for the FBI's help was that Oliver had to admit to being the Green Arrow and give himself up. And he did, and none of the others, even though they know that Renee is Wild Dog, they pretty much know who they all are. They are all being spared. They will not have to go to jail, but Oliver is now serving a life sentence, which is the name of this episode. So yeah, and right after they handcuff him, that's when the doctor comes in and says that Quentin died in surgery. And so everyone's all sad, and Watson just looks at Oliver and says, "Unfortunately, this does not change our agreement." And I'm just sitting there thinking, oh my god, this doesn't change anything, Haas. Are you frigging kidding me? They pulled a "this doesn't change anything, Haas" at the last second. It's like, dang it, don't say that. So it's like, that kind of took me out of it for a second, because I was like, don't frigging become Renee. Anyway, so yeah. So Oliver is taken out of the hospital, and there are a bunch of reporters there asking him why he's being arrested, and he says, "I'm voluntarily handing myself over to the FBI." And they ask, "Well, why? Can you comment on this further?" And he says, "Yes." And he looks straight into the camera and has his Iron Man moment and says, "I'm the Green Arrow." And he gives this really nice speech. It's really well written, and I like it. And the last part of this, Oliver is sent to a supermax prison where he will serve out his life sentence until I'm sure they break him out next season because he's the Green Arrow. Come on. But anyway. But that is the episode. That is Life Sentence. Overall, I suppose this was a good episode. Honestly, the problems with it... I suppose there are no new problems in this episode. Like, if there's anything that doesn't work, it's really just Diaz. Because I still don't think Diaz works as a villain, and he's just not a good villain in my opinion. But all of those problems I've already discussed in my Diaz video, and honestly, they weren't even that present here. So, this was a bit of a frustrating episode, especially when Laurel blasts Diaz away, and he gets away. That's frustrating, and it's frustrating to know that we're keeping Diaz next season. But, yeah. And the whole thing with Oliver being given a life sentence is a little frustrating because we know he's going to get out. We know that. I keep wondering why the president doesn't come in and pardon him, though. Because he's saved the world, and the president has publicly acknowledged him multiple times. Like, from saving the world from the Dominators, saving the world from Damien Dark. So, yeah. I don't know why the president just doesn't come in and pardon him, but, yeah. So, yeah. Overall, I guess it's an okay episode. I'll say that. The episode was okay to end a meh to bad season of Arrow. But on the plus side, the Longbow Hunters sound like actual comic book villains, actual fun villains that are worthy of the Green Arrow's time, other than some street thug, and maybe we'll get some. Hopefully, we get some new writers next season, and we breathe new life into the show because it really needs it after this season. So yeah, that is all for this, my 3-part review of Arrow Season 6. Again, overall, it was a rough season, and I hope it improves, and you know what, I am kind of looking forward to Season 7 because we got new showrunners next season. And from the sound of it, we're going to get some new fun comic book villains. I don't know. We'll see where we go. At the very least, the team is back together, so that's nice. And with the team back together, you know what? I like them. I will say, the good thing about this season is that the main characters, and I guess I'm not really... The main characters have been really good. Oliver, Felicity, and for the most part Diggle have been really good this season. Even with Diggle's confrontation of Oliver, it was still like well acted, and it didn't take up too much time, and it was kind of resolved at the end of the season because of Diaz. And I'm glad that New Team Arrow really isn't anything anymore. Now they're just back on Team Arrow. So I'm glad the team got back together because they are better together. We don't need any more of this Civil War stuff. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Stick around. Tomorrow I have a review of the Gotham Season 4 finale, No Man's Land. I think I'm going to be a little happier in that. Tuesday, I'm going to have a review of the Season 5 finale of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I believe sometime later this week, I will have a review of the Flash Season 4 finale. And, yeah. Oh, and maybe a surprise tomorrow. Monday, May 21st. Maybe a surprise, but yeah. That's pretty much it. I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, if you want to watch more of my videos, I've got like the Arrowverse playlist down here, all my Arrowverse videos. I've got other videos that maybe you want to check out, maybe not, I don't know. I've also got the subscribe button, probably like down here. And you can also follow me on social media, links below in the description. Take care.